You're not allowed to go back to bed.
It's a little too late, I guess. Show started.
That's it. Welcome to the Backpack Show, everybody, where we bring you insights about success from unusual places.
And we give you the great opportunity of sticking around, hanging out with us. If you got nowhere else to go, come sit with us. Sometimes you're not feeling so happy. Sometimes you need a little extra friend in your week. We're your friends. It's bad. I mean, like, it's all you get, but it's not,
It's just a jerk.
Sometimes that's it,
I mean, we are, but it's not like we're their only friends. Shut up.
Right, but sometimes your regular friends aren't even the right ones, Sometimes your regular friends, you're mad at them too. So come with us and be our friends, and it'll be good. We'll be chummy. Who do we have today? Do we even have guests?
Yes, we do, and I'm super excited about it. So first of all, the Facebook description didn't update, so I apologize to Kevin K. Knight, a Cape Cod artist, went to school with me and was already way cooler than I was, like very early in life. So he specializes in oil paintings. I have one of his works here. He's so good. Like, all his work has this intensity and kind of this layer of emotion right under the surface. It's amazing. So we're going to talk with him, and we're going to talk to Adrian Parker, who heads up marketing at Patrón Tequila. And we're also going to talk with Adrian, not just about tequila marketing, but about his efforts to help people create anti-racist leadership.
Which is a big move right now, because it's amazing how many people think, they've checked their box the minute they write that black background, white text, white logo. They're done.
Don't you wish it had been a big movement, like, I don't know, 50 years ago? Like, it's a long time coming. Hi, Carol.
Don't we feel like we've done this a few times at this point? So,
hello, Jane.
Sup, Jane. Oh, one last thing before we push the start button on the music and all that sort of thing. We're maybe going to try it entirely everybody go to YouTube week next week. So if you're super into watching us on Facebook, if you're super into watching us on LinkedIn, might not be you this time. This week, you might have to come to YouTube for us.
I'm at least happy you warned everybody before you pulled that on them.
Yeah. Just remember, always go to cbrogan.me/BP Live to find the show. And also remember that's Kerry Gorgone.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gorgone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show.
That will never not make me happy.
It's pretty fun. I mean, we just got that intro like a day or so ago, so apologies if we look super cheery when we
have a lot of new toys that courtesy of Tim Kitzrow that we keep breaking out. So it's only going to get worse as my editing continues.
The more work you do to make these things into little beautiful video clips.
Well, I have a lot of help. So
right.
Editing help. So let's get Adrian out.
Yeah, Adrian Parker has to come and make us smarter. And I mean, I don't know. I don't think I have too many spirit marketing questions. Like, liquor's good, drink it. Like, I think if that's all Adrian did in the world, I would call BS on him.
No.
I would. You know why? Because who has to market liquor? Like, you know what? Like, who's out there going, no? But
there's ways to market liquor, and there's ways to run a company. And I think what Adrian can talk about is setting an example as a brand.
Well, then I'll lead with a question then, because is Ryan Reynolds just an asshole for like taking over Aviation Gym? Like that's no fair.
Oh no, he's amazing. You know what? It's an exciting time to be in the category. Chris, don't let out the secret that at least in tequila, there isn't a whole lot of sales and marketing you have to do because it's on fire. But no, I think Ryan Reynolds, The Rock, Diddy, Michael Jordan, the Jonas Brothers, George Clooney, everybody and their mom. I think my grandma's actually going to start her own spirit brand next week. So
get out
involved. Right?
Oh, show's over. Grandma came up.
Grandma's on. That means we go. But we also want to talk to you a lot about anti-racism and activism. And we want to talk about, there's a lot of ways to peel that onion, right? There's a lot of different layers to it. There's a lot of ways to get at it. Has that been part of your career? Has that been something you've been pushing on? Or is this a new thing because of the way this year has turned out? Or talk a little bit about getting into that part of your business and what you're doing with it.
Yeah, you know what? I've grown up in a family. My father is a minister. My mom's in the community. So I've always grown up. I was a member of the NAACP. I remember my first march was in Pittsburgh, but it was really about in our community and about nonviolence. And so I grew up with an awareness of like social justice. But I think I'll be honest, over time, as you climb the ladder, especially in corporate America, is, you know, I'm one of one minorities in most rooms, whether it's the boardroom or it's a conference room with an agency. And then I think over time, as a Black male, you become conditioned to really assimilate. So some of those things, you know, you don't become a VP or a C-level at big companies by like shaking the tree, rocking the boat. And so I think this year was a wake-up call for a lot of the world, but also a reminder for a lot of leadership that we all have a responsibility. So I think this year has really just accelerated and put really, you know, an exclamation point on a chapter that we should have closed a long time ago.
But you can still see, like, if I go back and look at certain companies' feeds, you'll see this little spike of like wokeness in June, and then it's right back to business as usual.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah,
snap
you know,
back.
yeah, you know, solidarity is not what you say, it's what you do. I think for so many companies and brands, you know, they knew they needed to respond, but now their reaction isn't the work. Being woke is like the first step. Now it's time to work, and that's action. That's anti-racist leadership. That's following where you spend your money. How are you recruiting? It's interrupting bias. I mean, it's a big chunk of work. And the reality is, this is not new. I mean, anytime we have an issue, we know how to tackle tasks and problems. Racism, though, I found is only issue where, you know, otherwise very smart and articulate and really active people become a little gun shy. And so I think I've used this year to kind of confront and be somewhat provocative and challenging, I think, people in their communities to get involved. Yeah, absolutely.
In when you're talking about things like the community dollar, and also even way back to your dad being a preacher, your mom a community person, I always think of this. I don't know how many people did or didn't watch Trigger Warning with Killer Mike, but he does this incredible episode on there where he talks about just trying to go, I think it's 48 hours, just 48 hours, where he keeps every single dollar he spends in the Black community, which means he has to find a non-Apple cell phone. He has to find, he basically breaks down and accepts that it can run Android or whatever, because he's like, no Black guy made a phone OS yet. But he gets pretty far, but it was so interesting to see like the work it took to do that. And it's not like, you know, that's not what anti-racism is about at all. But I always do think about the fact that there are new movements out there now that are supporting trying to keep a lot more dollars in house, so to speak. How does that intersect with the other work of having non-people of color figure out what they need to be doing? And sort of like, where do you, if you had some chips for how many parts of your day you're going to spend, where do you stack your chips as it goes to that stuff?
Yeah, you know, it really is both. I mean, the roots of racism and white supremacy are economic, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think oftentimes because we view prejudice and discrimination as maybe these individual acts, so, oh, Chris just doesn't like Adrian because he's different. Well, that's the bias part of it, but the impact is the economic piece. So it's that value gap between people of color, right? With my wife being 4 times as likely, more likely to die from childbirth because of inequality in the medical system. My son being 6 times more likely to have an altercation with law enforcement that ends in his being dead because of his skin color. Those are things that are my daughter being more likely to be suspended. Those are things that are systemic. And so it starts with the system and the economics of it. But absolutely, I think so as a marketer, right? So, okay, the Patrón tequila guy.
Yeah.
What does he have to do with law enforcement, policy, and governance? Well, I think we start individual. So if my chips, 3 buckets I like to think about and I challenge people. One is the individual, like your own family, community, church, whatever organizations you're a part of. It's that education. So I start there. A lot of my efforts aren't online or posting. They're actually in private conversations with groups, with organizations, because a lot of the work isn't online and it's actually offline because it's conversations and it's actually helping people. It's using your money and your privilege and advantage to help others. I think that next bucket outside of individual is corporate. You know, as a marketing leader of a very well-known, valuable brand, I have an obligation to really be accountable for where we spend our dollars. So that supply chain of, hey, Patrón bought an ad, Patrón did an event. Well, where is that going in the community? How accountable are we to who we're hiring? the diversity of our partners and vendors. That's one. And then that last piece, I think, is from a leadership perspective. It's sponsoring and mentoring, and elevating. So that next generation of leaders, of future activists, future Chris Brogans, future Kerrys, right? We're elevating.
God, we don't need any more Kerry.
Right?
That's good.
So it's all three of those: individual, it's community, but it's also corporate. I think you have to do all three of those. But I'd start with individual, because unless you start there, you can't impact your company if you haven't done your own work.
Michelle says she's never heard economics attached to prejudice before. So thanks for shedding light on that, Adrian.
That's a big part of it, though, isn't it, Adrian? Because that's, you can pay a lot of lip service to all this. You can also decide that, you're going to hire enough people of color that you look a certain way, outside looking in on the logo. You can put, they always put that same look, those same skinny, light-skinned girl with the crazy afro. That's always like in every piece of marketing now. There's only one girl now.
Yeah. She's I used to be in advertising, right? So it's the racially ambiguous person that represents the colorblind culture of our brand, right?
The whole diaspora.
We used to write that in the briefs, racially ambiguous, because and now, you're absolutely right. And so now the economics of it, though, are that racism isn't an event; it's a structure, and there's a structure there that we have to confront. We have to create friction that makes it uncomfortable to be racist. And here's the challenge, I think, to listeners, and I guess you, Chris and Kerry, right? You are on your own anti-racist journey. So you'll have to almost confront things that you haven't achieved, right? So I want to be anti-sexist. I have 2 daughters, I have a wife, right? And so I have to confront sexist or misogynistic thoughts in myself while still promoting that, right? And so you don't have to be free or cured of it to actually help. And so it's both, like identifying, hey, I have racist ideas, or I've accepted racist thoughts, but also, hey, if I see it, I'm going to confront it. And that's the tension I think leaders have to have in their businesses.
I've started looking for like blood diamonds, if you know what I mean. Things that you're like, oh, but it's so pretty and it makes me happy and it's cheaper. And so I'll ignore all this bad stuff. I've started recognizing, I get this opportunity. That means somebody else doesn't. So I kind of look at the system as a whole and think about it. And it's uncomfortable to think about, because it's really nice to have some things like opportunities to speak, for example, and stuff like that. But if the whole rest of the speaker roster is like blindingly white, we really have to
talk about it.
We've got to make an effort. We got to speak up, and sometimes give up our spot for someone else. I think that's the part that hurts people, where they're like, but I want to do it,
I earned it. Yeah.
Right. I got here all by my own. This has nothing to do with that. That's the sentence that you say in your head when you're ready for that.
That's blood diamonds, right?
And all the way right. I like that version of an expression for it too. The recently Obama came out and said a speech that was about 85% not bad. He said something that made Cori Bush go off, and it made a lot of people go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And it was basically the whole, we should get away from the defund the police language. Yeah. This is interesting to me just because, again, as someone sitting here like with a big spoon trying to eat up all the anti-racist stuff I can learn, I'm like, like Obama just put his foot in it with a whole lot of people's opinion. Because when I came out of my ears, I went, okay, what do you want us to say? Like, is there some other phrase we need to say? Because he's been making good points lately. Your take on that? And
just lately,
help me out here.
Oh yeah, so it's funny. Me and someone online were having a good discussion about this. So I understand his sentiment. I understand in the culture where the headline or the tweet are read 10x more than the actual substance of the interview, as you guys know, right? It's hard to separate signal from noise. I'd say this, the risk of being, I guess, somewhat of an outlier. I agree with why people disagree, because if you're poking stones at the slogan, are you then advocating against the actual mission? But I think what he was trying to explain, and this isn't a new thought from him, though I think some of the outrage might be timely, but he goes on to say, like, the key, right, is deciding, do you want to actually get something done? Or do you just want to feel good about the people who already agree with you? That's what he's saying. He's like, it's not like you're wrong for saying defund the police, because that means law enforcement reform, systemic changes, etc. But as long as you say that, it's interpreted as, oh, you're trying to abolish all law enforcement. And so I think what he's saying is, And what, I think as a career politician and a civil servant, his job was always building those bridges. So I think his challenge is, if the mission is equality, the mission is reform in our neighborhoods, the mission is to be less reliant on law enforcement. Well, at some point, we got to work with people we disagree with. We got to work with people that voted differently from us, people that have a different view, and we've got to bridge that gap. And I think he's always been that kind of a leader, which is hard to do when you are polar opposites on a topic. So it's hard. It's easy for me to say that. Now, it's not easy to do.
No. But Adrian, what did Patrón do to kind of empower you to talk about anti-racist leadership, to go out and talk about some of these things? Because it could have been easy enough for them to be like, look, we have.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
but you're doing more. So how did they encourage you to do more?
We started with the first step everyone should do. We shut up. We stopped talking. Our team took a day off. And we actually got in the huddle, and we had outside Susan X. Jane, who's an amazing diversity and inclusion lecturer and activist, come and facilitate sessions with our team. And we actually did our own audit inside of Bacardi Limited, as our parent company that owns Patrón Tequila, had our own conversations and dug up our own stories. And there were calls with tears and reckoning and of every race, of every color, coming to the grips of, wow, white supremacy is a real thing. And I've lived under its reign for a while in my life. So we actually didn't talk about tequila. We didn't do any promotions. We shut up. We went dark for several weeks on social. And that was uncomfortable. You're getting calls what's going on? Is that going to cost us anything? But until we got it right with our team, that personal journey, it didn't make sense to go do anything else. But because we did that, though, we were able to actually hold ourselves to our highest values. There's things we're already doing, right? We already say we value people and community and the environment, et cetera. Well, let's export those values to the Black community. And so now when we say Black Lives Matter and we post the Black square, which, everyone did, right? But now, we're working with Black creators, and we've already been doing that. This wasn't a new story for us, but now we're more have an obligation to be accountable for where our dollars are being spent, how we're investing our money, elevating the Black voices that are already been in our companies for sure, and making sure that Adrian should not be one of the only African-American executives in the spirits industry, which has been woefully non-diverse for decades. I mean, I can count on one hand the number of Adrians that are in our industry, not even my company, our industry, and that's a problem.
To see, you could have been you could have gone the blood diamond route and been like, well, I got mine, so I don't want to rock the boat. You're not. You're out there making change happen.
Making it happen. It's big. Mm-hmm. It's big. Well, and I wanted to circle back just one comment, not even a question really about Obama, but we talk about the civil rights movement in the 60s as if it was one homogenous thing, but there was, Eldridge Cleaver, there's Farrakhan, and there's what King was saying. And it becomes a little interesting to kind of look backwards on that and go, oh, so King was the polite one. He was sort of the more table ready, even though he didn't have it easy either. You know what I mean? It wasn't,
not at all, yeah.
He didn't have it easy, but there were some very different views coming from the Black Panthers and from Nation of Islam. There was a lot of, the diaspora is big, and so it's interesting that you're here and you're allowed to make this voice. And allowed is the wrong word, but you're encouraged to, inside of Bacardi Limited, use Patrón and everything else at your power. I mean, you've millions at your power for them to tap you on the shoulder like this is a big move. It's a big thing.
Yeah, and I think we all have a responsibility to use whatever advantage we have in any form to help people of every form. If I look back, it's funny, I have look back on MLK's, Martin Luther King's writings 50, 60 years ago. Oh, not this one. Hold on. This is another book.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's good though.
His writings from.
Did you have to hide it under a different cover?
Yeah. It's scary how much things he wrote 60 years ago are applicable today. Honestly, it breaks my heart in many ways, because the change that he pushed for and the change we maybe thought we had arrived a few decades ago, we haven't. And in many in many areas, the gains have actually been lost, and we've taken a step back. And so I think that's what ignites me. That's what gets me passionate, is the fact that you have a choice, right? I can solve for me and mine. I got my tax bracket. I got my title. I'm good. Caleb, Chloe, Chandler, my kids, my wife, we're okay. And I'm good. Or I can deal with the fact that the legacy they're going to inherit is something that I'm responsible for. And I have a responsibility to actually try to make it better for them and hand them a baton that isn't the same that I was handed. And so for many generations, my grandfather, my father, they had to assimilate to a lot of racism to survive, like to stay alive. But now, I think we all have a responsibility. And so, this isn't comfortable. This isn't the conversation I want to be having with Chris Brogan. Me and Chris Brogan should be talking about Twitter strategy. What are you doing on TikTok? Let's talk about culture. Let's talk about like anything but racism. But here we are, and it's necessary.
It is. Adrian Parker, stick around. That was insanity. So good. And we have to have these conversations. That's why the show exists. That's why we talk to the people we talk to. It's our goal to shine a light on voices that aren't always getting elevated in the ways that they need to, about topics that need to be talked about. So, and
give people things to do about them.
Absolutely.
I mean, talk to a blue in the face until somebody tells you what you can do to take action and make a difference.
Right.
It's all just talk.
Yeah. And one of the ways we do that is through, the way we choose our guests, which is, hey, Fred Faulkner, the fourth here. Well, let's start the show again.
I want Fred Faulkner the fifth too.
Bring him in. So I was thinking about that too. I was thinking about the fact that yesterday's episode and today's episode, we have 4 dudes in a row. What did we do? Just nature of the schedule, like ladies all canceled. But, we have more ladies every week than any other show out there. And we're just trying to bring the light to more people that need to be seen and need to be heard and understood. So it's a big deal. So how do we do that?
Ladies.
We need ladies.
I worked at a bakery with some of the lunch ladies at the school Kevin K. Knight and I went to. And in the summer, I would work with the cafeteria ladies. They came over and worked at the bakery that I worked at. And they would say things like, well, all ladies are women. Not all women are ladies.
That is true.
Yeah. I got a whole other education in the summer.
My 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Matheson, horses sweat, men perspire, and ladies glow.
What a crock.
My next door neighbor, Mrs. Kimball, Sue Kimball, she always used to call me Chrissy. You know how awesome it is to be in cafeteria line and have your next door neighbor lunch lady call you Chrissy in front of a bunch of dudes? You're just asking for the locker fight.
Could be worse. She could have done it in front of a bunch of girls.
Oh, that's, I guess, true. Now that you say that. There were never girls around me. And I have to ask Adrian a little later. We both agree on cats, but I got to ask him what his problem is with green beans. Come on. Future of America is in green beans. How are you going to get your kids getting big and healthy and strong without green beans? Adrian Parker. Gosh. You could talk about this on your own show, ChrisBrogan.me/StreamYard. Make one. Make your own damn show.
It's so easy. You can even join from your phone. Artist Kevin K. Knight is going to be joining from his phone.
That's right, because his computers are already busy trying to crack a secret government code and figure out what those monoliths are.
No, that's not true.
Oh, okay. CBrogan.me.
It's true that it's easy to use. CBrogan.me/StreamYard. Go get them.
Authors. I'm waiting for Adrian Parker's book, How I Did It. Because he is going to make a book about how he made the church cool again, how he helps people feel like maybe religion's not over yet, and how that feeds into everything else he's doing. He's going to put that book on pub-site.com. And by put it on there, he's going to make his own website. This is a website building tool for authors, yo.
Specifically for authors. So it has all the pieces you need to promote yourself as an author, to promote your books, to promote your appearances. It's all in there for you. Super customizable. 14-day free trial. Give it a try. After that, it's just $19.99 a month. And even though it's easy, if you're like, blah, I just don't want to do it, they'll do it for you and build your whole website for $499.
Pretty damn inexpensive.
That's crazy cheap. If I wasn't an author and I needed a website, I'd be like, I'm just going to get this and write the book.
What are they going to know? Right. I was thinking that the other day. I was thinking, they need to know.
It's a really nice website.
All right. They're also a sponsor of Person of the Day. And as you know, we have a new and improved Person of the Day. So please don't anyone go anywhere, because the Person of the Day is announced at the next to last day of the show. And boy, have we got something for you today.
Mitch Jackson checking in for all of California.
All of California, the entire state. That's a lot of electoral votes right there in that state, Mitch Jackson. Good to see you. My mom and dad holding down Nevada. That's actually, by the way, how you know whether or not someone's from there or not, or knows enough about the place, because other people say Nevada and it's Nevada. Who'd have thunk it?
Well, I grew up on Cape Cod, and so if you don't know how that Chatham is Chatham and Eastham is Eastham, that's how we know you're not from the Cape.
I was going to say that when I worked at 411 Directory Assistance, you would know that people were from away because they would say things from Worcester, and you'd say, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir, that's Worcester." And then he'd say, "Okay," and then he'd ask for a second listing, and he'd go from Duster, and we're like, "Oh, no, sorry, that one's Dorchester." So now I got to get all the dirt on Chatham from an artist. So an artist who paints landscapes would probably know
lots
a
of
lot
other
about
things, actually.
dirt and sand. Well, but he also, this is my transition. I'm trying for a segue here. Trying for a segue. And I don't mean those little vehicles that roll off cliffs. I mean, the other.
It looks better when he paints it than it looks when you actually are looking at it. If you know what I mean.
No.
It does. Yes.
Kevin, what is she talking about?
Yeah.
What does she mean? It looks better when you paint it? You mean during the painting?
No, look. So I've been to this place. It doesn't look as good as it looks when he paints it.
It's Long Pond and Brewster. So yeah, it's
it doesn't look that. I mean, it's fine.
Biggest bodies of water around the area. So yeah, a lot of people go to it.
I have this right in my foyer. I walk by it every day. It makes me so happy.
Awesome. Yeah. So how do I follow up with Adrian's? I mean, was great.
You're effed, basically.
It was terrific.
Will you shut up? Kevin is doing important and wonderful work, and more people need to know about it.
It's like the Stones opening for the White Stripes. That's what you're facing right now. All right. Kevin Knight, what are your themes? Artist people have themes. They get stuck in their thing that they're going to do for a while, and they kind of have a thing they're pursuing, and there's a reason you keep the brushes moving. What's yours?
Well, currently it's trying to make a living because COVID. So I was laid off from my job, and I've sold pieces before, and I've had art shows before. And it's always been my want and my dream to be professional. So COVID happened, and I had someone who was like, "Could you paint my dog?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So it started with someone's dog, and then all of a sudden I got other people wanting commissions for pets. So it was like, wow, they're pouring in. So I quit my job. And I was like, this is happening during COVID. Like, people want, to spend money. So so I quit my job, and like the commissions were pouring in. I had to cancel some, and I was like, it's a lot of work. And then, so I'm doing it now. We just had an art show with a good friend of mine, who's a blacksmith. And
do we know that? Is this that friend?
We will when he comes to the show.
You should definitely know him. And it was really good. It went really well, and now I'm getting more people who want more work. So
Kevin, you said I was laid off, and then you said, so I quit my job. So let me get you were laid off. You found a crap job. You found like a crappy job, and then you went and paid it.
COVID, So COVID, and everybody was like, well, we're closing down. And I was working at a dry cleaners being a presser. So if you can imagine
that's funny.
what that's like.
Was it depressing?
Oh, you shut up. You just make a terrible joke.
It was depressing.
Well, we just talked about someone yesterday whose first job after leaving home was as a presser. And to get it, he pretended to be an employment agency and called around to places. So he was a black man in like the 60s, 50s, calling around saying, "Hey, I run an agency, got some people looking for jobs. What do you got?" And he's got a job, and they're like, "We need a presser." He's like, "I'll send someone over." And it was him. So
that's awesome.
So we're just saying there's synergy from yesterday to today. So you're here.
Do you stream your art projects on Twitch, Kevin? Oh, your daughter can help you with that.
I have not broached the whole video painting thing yet, and I've been wanting to for a while because I think it'll definitely help my career. It's funny because it's easy to paint stuff. It's easy to come up with subjects, and like I have so many ideas popping. Like, I'll never go without wanting subject matter. It's the business end right now is what I'm trying to wade through, which is very, very tough for me. So it's a complete learning experience, and that's that. Like I said, it's the tough part. You're streaming some of my work, so
Well,
So which of these do you consider like yours, your personal works
Right.
that you did just because you were moved to do them, and which were commissions? Because I
The
don't I actually
personal,
think
the
they both
most
were.
personal piece was probably the two hands there that I gave to my now fiance.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yes, it's a long backstory where we hung out when we were kids, and she like held my hand when we were going home one night, and it was like it blew my mind. I think it was like 19 or something like that.
Oh, that's adorable.
So
Come on.
we started talking earlier last year, and then yeah, so the more we talked, the closer we got, and we started seeing each other, and then now it's, we're engaged, and she brought me back to the very street where we held hands that night, and then she got down on one knee and asked me to marry her, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. So
Wow.
Come on, that's
yeah.
adorable. So does
So
your work
that
then after that point, does it change a little bit, like the tone of your work?
I think the thing that I've noticed the most since quitting my job is I haven't been so afraid of color. So I've been punching up my colors quite a bit. And I've started out doing, like that's another one of Long
That's
Pond right
immense.
there. And the thing is, I started doing the shells in the sand, stuff like that, which I call the Bayside series. It's about finding like found objects down at like Cape Cod Bay. It's like you go out and walk around the bay for a while, like especially low tide, it goes out like a mile. So you can like walk out and walk around and you find like one thing, and then the next tide it's gone. So it's kind of like trying to capture a moment in time. And yes, I do kids too.
Well, so I was going to say long before I was this Chris Brogan that people know for a whole bunch of different reasons, I was an artist and I was doing pen and ink art.
Really?
And there is, oh yeah. So there's a fork in the road though, that like I'm at Beacon Hill Art Walk, and I did that show a couple of years in a row. So what they do is they open up those private gardens that are all inside of all those hidden brownstones and stuff at Beacon Hill, those like $1 million houses and whatever. And so there's a whole art community that piles their stuff in and hides in all their various gardens. So I'm in a garden with a bunch of paintings of mine, which are like dragons and like werewolves choking out elves and things like that. And then everybody else has like shitty lighthouses and things like that. And I'm asking a question. I'm giving you all that backstory so that I'm not asking this question in a dick way. But if you paint from your belly, you have to hit a very certain plateau before you actually can eat sandwiches based on that. But when you paint a bunch of baby dogs, you can work forever, basically. Are you finding that? And then what does that do with you artistically? Because when I have to eat, boy, I'll paint any dog you want me to paint. But tell me about that struggle a little bit, the business versus art, man.
The funny thing is I really enjoy painting the animals. I require like really nice photo, of course. I always need to know the pet's name, and it's like a connecting point. So when I paint the animal, I try to do the utmost, most respectful version that I can. Especially what I work on the most is the eyes, because that's a connecting point. You give it to an owner and they're like, oh my God, that's my that's Bacon right there.
Bacon is the best name for a dog.
Name.
Yeah. So Rhodesian Ridgeback. So it was very important for me to do a piece like that. But I know exactly what you're talking about. Like I do seashells and stuff like that, and I've gotten to a point now where I'm kind of like,
oh, this is
this is great, and I do sell a few of them, but I'm kind of like, I lean toward making newer stuff where I'm trying to infuse part of myself into maybe some local stuff. And that's where I feel like I'm trying to move to. And I'm actually working on that's a promotion for Rusty and my stuff right there. But nice. I'm actually working on a commission. I have a good friend. He called me up and he's like, I know you do like beachy stuff and stuff like that, but would you do a black dragon in a swamp? And I was like, absolutely. So I'm working on a commission doing that. And so I'm working on it, trying to do the absolute utmost best so I can put it out and blow people's minds, and they'll be like, oh, he does fantasy art. I want a fantasy piece too. So nice. I'm kind of working into it. It's hard to transition from, it's Cape Cod. There's a lot of people who vacation here. They want a piece of the Cape.
Kerry, hold that one up.
It's an older generation. So, you can't really sell black dragons to, old ladies.
That's right.
They have nightmares. It's not their fault.
Is that a horse eyeball right there?
It is. It's part of the larger, a larger painting that I did for, actually, her, Kerry, Missy Long.
Oh, yeah. Funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's her horse, Planet. Thunder. So,
Small Planet. We went to school with like 35 people in our class.
I know. Yeah. And it's funny because a lot of these paintings have gone to people that like Brad Dyer. Like he bought a painting, a few other people, just people that we went to school with. But yeah, there's a few people who
because we all ended up far away, but it's true that you're from where you're from and you do miss it in a way. So that's why I got the one I got.
Well, and that's an important point.
I really enjoyed going to art school. Like it was kind of a mind-blowing event for me. I went to school at Montserrat College of Art up in Beverly, which is just northeast of Boston. And it was an education because I got to hang around the Boston area and really see something different from the Cape. So my art then obviously was different, but you come back here and there's things that you love about the Cape, and I try to put the love that I have for the Cape into what I do, and I try to kind of change things up a little as my perspective of how I see the Cape. So that's what I hope people understand.
It's tricky. I was thinking about the fact that you have to kind of wear the identity of Cape Cod artist because there's a massive amount of people who come to the Cape, including President Barack Obama, who come there, for that experience. They want the Cape experience, and so they don't. Right. They don't want they want the seashells. Like if they don't get the seashells, they're in the wrong place. They want the horseshoe crab.
But just
even popcorn art, little pieces.
I know, but just because I'm a Cape artist, obviously. I don't want to fit that bill. Like, for the art show, I put my hair in a mohawk. I was like, Rusty, if you see anybody who says, who painted that painting, you can just say, look for the guy with the orange mohawk. It's like, a standout thing where, people will obviously see where I am. It's easy to point out. So,
bunch of grandmothers wearing quilts for dresses or the other people in your thing.
Debbie Saviano suggests you check out Haley Torres. She does her painting on video. Is that like,
cool.
Yeah.
It must be really weird when the video changes scenes then. She has to like.
Just.
I'm the worst. I'm grabbing Adrian.
Running from frame to frame.
Yeah. Painting on each frame. That's called animating, I think. I think that's what they do to make those cells. I'm going to grab Adrian and we're going to have some ganged up questions, I think. Mr. Parker, welcome back.
Thanks. Good to be back. And Kevin, I was stalking your art page on Instagram. I gotta become a consumer collector now because
I got mine.
Cool.
I have no art talent, but I'm a big fan. So
well, thank you. I mean, I love what you said, and it's nice to, hear the compliment.
Think about you get Patrón to look really good in like an oil painting.
Right. Yeah. Why
you can make tequila really shine on a beach.
But both of you, to do your jobs effectively, to do what you're trying to do, you have to see the world as it could be and not necessarily as it is.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's the job description of a leader, right? Is to manage uncertainty, but see the vision of, hey, what could be, but with the reality of, all right, this is the canvas, these are the tool, these are the colors, and I gotta push. And once you paint it, I do know this, once you paint like a layer, you can't necessarily erase it. You gotta keep working it until it gets right. And I think, it's such an apropos, I think description of the job of leadership is kind of working with what you got. You can't go backwards, but you gotta get it right.
Absolutely. And you learn from your mistakes, which is the greatest thing.
Yeah.
So, the great thing about paint is you can do it over and over again, until you start layering things up, then, you can't do that, but you
We won't
do
see
some
that
other
noise.
style of artwork. Yeah.
I was gonna say every person, no matter their job or their whatever, it's amazing that sound translates through all of us when we hit that moment where we're like, Like, you know, you drop the cake on the floor, or you just said the exact wrong sentence to the prospective client, and now they're not a prospective client. You know, they're out the door.
And for me, it would be like I would get, this is how long ago I practiced law, but I would get a fax with like 2 minutes to go on the deadline, and some pain in the ass opposing counsel would have filed some BS motion, and I'm like,
change everything
under the wire. I made that noise a lot.
Yeah.
So Kevin, we were, you know, because you and Kerry are both from Cape Cod, both from Chatham, we talked a little bit about where you're from. Adrian said something and it went right past, and I got to go back to it. Pittsburgh. You're originally a Yinzer. You're from that hood. That's an interesting neighborhood to be from.
Oh no, so I'm actually from Texas. So this is one of
you're
my
from Texas. Okay,
yeah, so born and raised in Texas, and I married a TCU Horned Frog, so she never wants to leave Texas, God's country. But no, I've spent time in Pittsburgh at some events. Yeah,
got it. Pittsburgh at events. That is a working town.
Yeah.
Debbie is in Texas too.
Debbie's a Texan. Oh my gosh! All right, listen. I have one last thing, and then we're gonna ask the person today. My one last question is: when people come to you for just generic advice about what they're doing in these times of woe, what sort of thing have you been giving them lately? Kevin, I mean, you just went through it rough. You got knocked out of the saddle, and you had to go make yourself some business. What do you tell your other artist friends or whatever who are in that boat?
I say the same thing. Just don't quit on what you're doing. Keep moving forward. It's just a moment in time. You know, it's like people say, you know, well, the sun's not out today, but it is. You know, it's behind the clouds. It's always there. So you just need to wait for your opportunity, and don't give up on that.
Don't give up. Kate Bush used to say that. Preacher, what do you got?
Wow. You know what? I think we're all learning to drive in the dark, and a lot of things we took for granted, a lot of best practices, a lot of things that we just thought, you know, this 2020 has gone out the window, and we're all got our hands on 10 and 2, and you know, we're driving slower. We're like, you know, we're using our turn signal because you just don't know. And so I think for me, it's been that resilience, acknowledging the pain or the loss, right? We're losing loved ones. We're losing economic opportunities. Acknowledge that. Don't run from that. Acknowledge the pain, but then let that pain create space and opportunity to use your network, use your loved ones, use your, you know, I've had calls with coworkers that we're talking about their parents and their family and their kids, and I'm shipping, you know, like Lysol disinfectant wipes to coworkers because they can't find it in California. Like, these are things we weren't doing a year ago. And so I don't want to lose that empathy, but I think we're all learning to just drive in the dark, but let's do it together, and let's respect each other's own journey and their own opportunities.
Good
Boy,
to hear.
things I wasn't doing in 2019, like washing bags of potato chips.
Yeah.
I'm still not doing that one, but I believe I know where you are. Listen, time now for person of the.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
I was thinking about this. We give one person of the day. It's absolutely related to nothing, and you don't get anything. You technically get an apple, but you have to go buy the apple, so it's not even that good of a surprise.
Shut up.
Lenjoy. Why Lenjoy? Because he said hi,
him.
guys. No, that's the only reason is because Lenjoy is our second biggest booker of guests.
Not because he's an award-winning sports fiction
not because
author
he's an award-winning sports fiction
who
author.
got into
Anybody
writing
can do
after
that.
having a whole other career. So he like retired, then became a triathlete, like nationally ranked triathlete, and started writing books.
He doesn't even
never too
he
late.
doesn't even just run. He doesn't just swim. He bikes also. So anyway, that's our person of the day. All right, we're at the spot where we ask one question to every single one of our guests, which is, what goes in your backpack? This is something that could be either physical or it could be metaphorical. So you could put something in there like, Kerry, what are some of your favorites?
I still love fearlessness and vulnerability. Those are the
Someone's
got to
knock this out of the pack.
No, it's my favorite. And because it's my favorite. Shut up. And then one person said, oh, Whiskey Nate said a book you hate. And his idea was like, if you have nothing else to read, eventually you'll learn to like it. It'll expand your mind.
I hate that answer. You can also, something physical could even be an avocado. So that's the question we're going to ask. I'm going to start with Kevin. What do you want to put in that backpack?
A sketchbook and a pencil, because it's what I came back to Cape Cod with 15 years ago, and I barely had anything, and that's what it started with.
Man, wow. That's like the classic, guitar on the back kind of imagery, but it's the sketchbook and the pencil.
Yeah.
Love it.
Check out Sketching Fife on Facebook.
That's
our friend Kara from Scotland.
Adrian Parker, what goes in the backpack, sir?
Man, that's a hard one. I feel like I'm supposed to say maybe a flask. But I think my real answer would be bring an extra seat. So when you pull up at that table, someone can join you, and maybe somebody that doesn't look like you.
I love that.
I am forever trying to get my invite to the cookout. Hasn't happened yet, but
we'll make that happen.
Middle-aged white guy. You've been at every damn cookout.
They just said,
woman. Even I wasn't invited to all the cookouts.
Listen, all right, I have a really quick question. This is related to.
Oh, really? Do you?
For God's sake, stop talking. Let the woman speak.
That's all I've got. That
actually was finished. I just really wanted to use it.
No, you just wanted to use that button. But I was told that speaking of Mr. I don't like green beans, I was told that the way to get it the cookout is you got to make some really cool dish like a mac and cheese or something like that, and there's a lot of good pops, ribs and whatever are the right thing, but that if you make vegetables, the only thing that can happen is if you bring vegetables to a cookout is that if they're really bad, they hate you and you're a liability and you're talked about forever. Like there's no upside to bringing a vegetable to
there's an upside because somebody's already perfected all the essentials. So you're not going to make better cornbread, you're not going to make better barbecue or ribs. Like that won't happen. Now, what you can do is bring a bottle of something that helps because that's your safe bet. You bring the bottle, or hey, bring the extra ice for the cooler. But yeah, don't mess with mama's essentials because there's no way you're gonna make that better.
I don't like cooking, so I got immediately so bad at it that nobody would want me to. I get out of it all the time. They're like, poor thing, she can't cook. I'm like, I can't.
Well, my Grammy really could cook, and I will tell you that the thing I want, especially for Christmas time, she makes an incredible dish that I love above all the other things she makes.